Most people think failure means they're not good enough, that it's the end of their dreams. But what if I told you failure is not the end? It's the beginning. Today, we're going to destroy the lie that failure defines you. Instead, I'll show you how it refines you. If you've ever felt stuck, beaten down, or afraid to try again, this message will set you free. Let me tell you something most people never understand about failure. We've been conditioned since childhood to see failure as an ending. You fail a test, you get punished. You fail at a job, you lose security. You fail in a relationship, you feel like you're not worthy of love. But the truth is, failure was never meant to be a dead end. It was meant to be feedback. Think about it. Every time you failed in your life, every time something didn't work out the way you wanted, there was a lesson hidden inside it. But here's the problem. Most people never look for the lesson. They stop at the pain. They stop at the embarrassment. They stop at the rejection. And when you stop at the pain, you miss the gift. I want you to imagine for a moment you're a scientist in a lab. You're running experiments. You mix two chemicals and it doesn't work. Does that mean you're a failure? No. It simply means you found one formula that doesn't produce the outcome you want. You make a note, you adjust, and you try again. That's what failure is. It's feedback. It's data. It's life showing you another path, another approach, another possibility. But here's where most of us get stuck. We confuse the event with our identity. We say, I failed, so I must be a failure. That is a lie. A failure is an event. It's a moment in time. It's a single outcome. It is not who you are. Who you are is bigger than any single outcome. Who you are is the sum of your decisions, your resilience, and your willingness to get back up when life knocks you down. And yet, we carry these scars of failure as if they define us. We replay the rejection. We relive the moment we lost the job. We tell ourselves stories like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable enough, I don't deserve success. But let me tell you, your brain is not your destiny. Your past is not your destiny. Failure is not your destiny. Failure is your teacher, your coach, your greatest ally. If you are willing to listen to it, think about how a baby learns to walk. They fall again and again and again. And no parent in the world looks at their baby and says, well, I guess walking isn't for you. You've failed too many times. No, they cheer them on. They celebrate the attempt. They encourage the progress. They understand that falling is not failure, it's feedback. It's the body learning balance. It's the brain creating new connections. It's life strengthening the child for the next step. Now, take that same truth and apply it to your own life. When you fall, when you stumble, when you face a setback, why don't you treat yourself the way you treat that baby? Why do you judge yourself so harshly? Why do you turn feedback into finality? Somewhere along the way, we forgot that failing is part of becoming. Every great innovator you admire, every entrepreneur, every leader, every artist, they all failed far more times than they succeeded. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb on his first try. He failed thousands of times, but he didn't call it failure. He called it learning. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because they said he lacked creativity. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Do you see the pattern? Every single one of them used failure as feedback, not as a final judgment on who they were. And here's the most important thing. The meaning you give to failure determines what you do next. If you say, this is the end, you stop trying. But if you say, this is feedback, you try again, but smarter, stronger, wiser. One interpretation destroys you, the other transforms you. Life is not about avoiding failure, it's about embracing it, because every failure carries with it the seed of progress. When you miss a shot, you learn how to aim better. When you lose an opportunity, you learn how to prepare differently. When you break down, you learn how to rebuild stronger. Failure is simply life giving you information. But here's the catch. You have to be willing to ask the right questions. Don't just ask, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? What can I learn from this? How can I use this pain as fuel? How can I turn this setback into a setup for my comeback? Your brain is wired to protect you from pain, and failure feels painful. That's why most people avoid it. But the ones who grow, the ones who achieve extraordinary results, they're the ones who lean into the pain long enough to extract the lesson. They don't run from it. They don't hide from it. They embrace it, they study it, they let it shape them. And the truth is, you will never outgrow failure, no matter how successful you become. No matter how experienced, there will always be moments that don't go as planned. The difference between the winners and the quitters is not that the winners never fail, it's that they never stop learning from their failures. So the next time you fail, pause. Don't rush into self-judgment. Don't label yourself. Don't retreat. Instead, take a breath and ask yourself, what feedback is life giving me right now? What do I need to change, to shift, to improve? And when you get that answer, take action immediately, because action turns feedback into growth. Action turns failure into progress. Action turns pain into purpose. Every single one of us faces setbacks, a broken dream, a missed opportunity, a relationship that didn't work out, a goal that slipped through our fingers. And in that moment, it feels heavy. It feels permanent. It feels like life just slammed the door shut in your face. But here's the truth: the meaning you attach to that setback will determine the future of your life. The event itself is not the end, it's neutral. What gives it power is the story you tell yourself about it. When something goes wrong, most people immediately fall into disempowering patterns. They say, I knew I wasn't good enough. Nothing ever works out for me. Maybe I should just stop trying. And the moment you assign that meaning, you've already lost. Not because the setback was too big, but because you framed it in a way that stripped away your power. Now imagine if you chose a different frame. Imagine if instead of saying, this happened because I'm not good enough, you said, this happened because life is redirecting me. This happened because I'm meant to grow in a new way. This happened because there's something better waiting for me. Suddenly, the same event, the same disappointment carries an entirely different energy. Instead of closing you down, it opens you up. Instead of crushing your spirit, it fuels your hunger. Instead of stopping you, it propels you. That is the power of reframing. Reframing is about taking control of your mind. It's about deciding that no event in life has the power to define you until you give it meaning. Think about it. Two people can experience the same setback and one will collapse while the other will rise. Why? Not because the setback was different, but because the frame was different. The one who collapses sees it as proof of their limitations. The one who rises sees it as preparation for their greatness. History is full of examples. Think about Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. That could have been the ultimate setback. That could have been the end of his story. But Mandela didn't frame it as punishment. He framed it as preparation. He used those years to strengthen his mind, to cultivate patience, to deepen his vision. And when he walked out of that cell, he walked into destiny, not bitterness. Think about Thomas Edison when his laboratory burned to the ground. Everything gone. His life's work turned to ashes. Most people would have seen it as devastating, unrecoverable. Edison, he reframed it. He looked at the ruins and said, thank God all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh again. That's reframing. That's taking a setback and turning it into fuel for the future. The difference between people who stay stuck and people who move forward is not that one has fewer setbacks. It's that one has trained themselves to reframe setbacks differently. And you have that same power. The frame is a choice. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you interpret it. Your brain is like a lens. The frame you use shapes the world you see. If you put a dark frame around your setback, you see hopelessness, you see rejection, you see weakness. If you put an empowering frame around it, you see growth, you see redirection, you see resilience. Same picture, different frame, completely different experience. Let me give you an example from your own life. Think of a time you went through something that felt like the end of the world. Maybe you lost a job, maybe a relationship ended, maybe you failed at something important. Back then, you thought you would never recover, but look at where you are now. Look at what that experience taught you. Look at how it shaped your decisions, how it strengthened you, how it prepared you for what came next. At the time, you framed it as the end. But looking back, you can see it was a beginning. The only difference is perspective. So why wait until years later to see the gift? Why not train yourself to see it now? Why not ask, in the middle of the storm, what else could this mean? How could this be happening to me, not to me? What hidden opportunity is buried inside this pain? The quality of your life comes down to the quality of the questions you ask. Change your questions, and you'll change the frame. Change the frame, and you'll change your life. Reframing doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It doesn't mean pretending the setback doesn't hurt. Of course it hurts. Of course it's disappointing. But it means you don't stop there. You feel it, you acknowledge it, and then you rise above it by choosing a meaning that empowers you instead of destroying you. When Steve Jobs was fired from his own company, Apple, he could have framed it as humiliation. He could have said, that's it, I'm finished. But he didn't. He reframed it as freedom. He said it gave him the space to become creative again, to innovate, to build. And years later, that reframing led to the rebirth of Apple and some of the most revolutionary products of our time. Think about your own setbacks right now. Maybe you've been rejected. Maybe you've been overlooked. Maybe you've tried again and again and nothing seems to be working. What if this is not rejection but redirection? What if this is life preparing you for something bigger? What if the door that closed was never meant for you? because there's another door opening that you can't see yet. That's reframing. That's shifting the narrative from victim to creator, from powerless to powerful. The human spirit is unbreakable when you learn this art. And because once you understand that no event has inherent meaning until you assign it, you become untouchable. You stop being a prisoner of circumstance and you become the author of your story. So the next time you face a setback, pause before you assign meaning. Ask yourself, is this frame empowering me or imprisoning me? Is this story building me up or tearing me down? Is this setback proof that I'm finished or proof that I'm being shaped for something greater? Life will keep throwing setbacks at you. That will never change. What can change is your response. What can change is the frame, and when you master reframing, setbacks stop being barriers and start becoming bridges. Resilience. That unshakable strength inside you that refuses to give up. That ability to stand tall when life tries to break you. People talk about resilience like it's some natural gift, something you're either born with or you're not, but that's not the truth. Resilience isn't something you're given. Resilience is something you build, and the raw material you build it from is failure. Think about the strongest people you've ever met in your life. Not the ones who had it easy, not the ones who were handed everything, but the ones who walked through fire and kept moving forward. The ones who faced rejection, heartbreak, loss, and yet came out stronger, wiser, and tougher. That strength didn't appear out of thin air. It was forged in the fire of failure. Failure is life's training ground. Every time you fall short, every time you're knocked down, every time things don't go the way you hoped, you're given an opportunity. Not an opportunity to wallow or to quit but an opportunity to stretch your capacity, to prove to yourself that you can survive what you thought would destroy you. Resilience isn't built when everything goes right. Resilience is built when everything goes wrong and you find a way to rise anyway. It's built when you lose something you thought you couldn't live without and you realize you're still standing. It's built when you hear no 1,000 times and you show up for the 1,001st. It's built when you're on your knees, broken, doubting yourself, and you decide to get back up one more time. And here's the paradox. The very thing we fear, failure, is the very thing that builds the muscle we need to succeed. If life were easy, if everything worked out the first time, if you never stumbled, you'd never develop resilience. You'd stay fragile, you'd break the moment real pressure showed up, but failure toughens you. It hardens your will. It teaches you that pain is not the end, it's the path to strength. Think of your life like a gym. If you lift only the weights that are comfortable, you'll never grow stronger. Your muscles grow only when you push past resistance, only when you tear the fibers a little, only when you step into discomfort. And in the same way, your emotional and mental resilience grows only when you push through the resistance of failure. The heavier the weight, the stronger you become if you choose to keep lifting. History is full of people who built resilience through failure. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election, faced business failures, personal losses, and yet he kept going, kept rising until he became one of the most respected leaders in history. Why? Because failure didn't break him, it built him. J.K. Rowling faced rejection from multiple publishers who told her she wasn't good enough, until Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Every rejection was a rep in the gym of resilience. But this isn't just about famous people, it's about you. Your failures, your heartbreaks, your setbacks. They're not there to define you. They're there to refine you. They're chiseling away the weakness, carving out the strength, shaping you into the person capable of handling the life you've been asking for. The truth is, without failure, resilience cannot exist, because resilience is not born from comfort, it's born from adversity. Every failure is like a weight handed to you. You can either drop it, give up, and say it's too heavy, or you can grip it, lift it, struggle with it, and in the process grow stronger. And with each lift, with each repetition of standing back up after life knocks you down, your resilience grows. Most people don't realize this. They think resilience is just about enduring, but it's not. It's about transforming. It's about turning pain into fuel, turning loss into drive, turning rejection into hunger. Resilience is not passive, it's active. It's not about waiting for things to get better. It's about deciding you will get better through the things that went wrong. And here's the part most people miss. Resilience doesn't show up in the victory. It's built in the struggle. It's built in the late nights when no one's watching. It's built in the tears you cry alone. It's built in the moments when you could quit, but you don't. And every time you push through, every time you keep going, you're laying down another layer of resilience. Now, let's be real. Failure hurts. There's no denying that. It can crush your confidence. It can make you doubt your worth. It can leave you questioning everything. But pain has a purpose. Pain is a signal. It's telling you that growth is happening, and resilience is the choice to not run from that pain, but to embrace it, to let it shape you, to let it make you stronger. If you look back on your own life, the times when you grew the most were not when things were easy. They were when things were hardest. Maybe it was after a breakup, after a financial loss, after a dream crumbled. You thought it was the end, but somehow you came out of it tougher, wiser, more determined. That's resilience being born inside you. And the beautiful thing is this: once you build resilience through failure, you carry it with you into every future challenge. Suddenly, problems that used to scare you don't shake you anymore. Obstacles that once felt impossible now feel like opportunities. Why? Because you've proven to yourself that you can survive the storm. You've built that unshakable muscle of resilience, and no one can take it from you. So when failure comes, and it will come, you have a choice. You can let it break you in, or you can let it build you. You can let it bury you, or you can let it plant you. You can treat it as the end, or you can use it as the beginning of resilience that will carry you through the rest of your life. Most people think failure is the final chapter of their story. They believe once they've fallen, once they've been rejected, once they've hit the ground, that it's over. But failure isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a transformation you could never experience without being broken down first. Transformation is never born in comfort. It doesn't come from success, from applause, from victories. Transformation comes from the cracks in your armor, from the moments when everything you thought you were collapses, from the nights when you're staring at the ceiling, asking yourself, what now? That is the birthplace of transformation, and failure is the doorway that leads you there. Failure strips away illusions. It takes away the mask we hide behind. It exposes the truth about what's working in our lives and what isn't. And in that moment of exposure, when everything feels raw, you are given a choice. You can run from it, numb it, deny it, or you can step into it, face it, and allow it to reshape you. That's when transformation begins. Think about a seed. Before it can grow into something new, it has to be buried in darkness. It has to split open, it has to break apart. To the outside eye, it looks like destruction, like the end. But in reality, that breaking is the beginning. That's exactly what failure is. It's the cracking open of who you used to be so the next version of you can emerge. Most people fight this process. They cling to their old identity, their old habits, their old ways of thinking, even when those patterns are the very things holding them back. Failure forces you to let go. It forces you to ask, who do I need to become now? What must change in me if I'm going to rise again? And in asking those questions, you awaken transformation. Look at any story of greatness and you'll see this truth. The heroes you admire were not made in the spotlight. They were made in the shadows. In the moments when nobody believed in them, when nobody was cheering, when nobody saw their struggle, they were made in failure. Because failure doesn't just test you, it reshapes you. It burns away the unnecessary, the shallow, the weak, and it leaves behind the essence of who you truly are. When you fail, life is inviting you to evolve. It's saying, the old way isn't enough anymore. The old you isn't strong enough for the future you've been asking for. It's time to grow, it's time to transform, and sometimes the only way we will grow is when failure forces us to. Because success can make us complacent, but failure wakes us up. Success can make us soft, but failure makes us sharp. Success can lull us into comfort, but failure demands transformation. Think about the times in your life when you've reinvented yourself. Did it happen when everything was smooth? Or did it happen after heartbreak, after loss? After things fell apart? Transformation rarely comes dressed as victory. It comes disguised as failure, as endings, as collapse. But inside those endings are the seeds of your new beginning. When a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it first dissolves into nothing. Inside the cocoon, it literally breaks down into a kind of liquid before reshaping into something completely new. That breaking down is not death, it's transformation. In the same way, when failure makes you feel like everything is falling apart, what's really happening is that you are dissolving the old you to make space for the new you. But transformation is not automatic. Failure alone doesn't transform you. It only gives you the opportunity. You must choose how you respond. You can choose to see failure as proof that you're not enough and stay stuck in that story forever. Or you can choose to see it as the moment life gave you a new chance, a blank page, an invitation to rewrite who you are and what you're capable of. Steve Jobs once said that being fired from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to him. At the time, it looked like failure. To the world, it looked like humiliation. But he reframed it as liberation, as the spark that ignited a new wave of creativity. That so-called failure was the beginning of his transformation, and it led to some of the most innovative products the world has ever seen. Oprah has shared how her early failures in television almost made her give up. She could have let those setbacks define her, but instead, they became the foundation for her transformation into one of the most powerful communicators of our time. And it's not just them. Transformation is waiting for you, too. That job you didn't get, that business that collapsed, that relationship that broke, those aren't endings. They're beginnings. They're invitations to step into a higher version of yourself, one that you never would have discovered if everything had gone according to plan. The truth is, failure forces you to ask deeper questions. It makes you reflect in ways success never does. It makes you dig inside yourself for the strength, creativity, and courage you didn't know you had. And the moment you tap into those hidden reserves, you are transformed. But here's what most people don't realize. Transformation isn't just about achieving more. It's about becoming more. It's about discovering the strength you didn't know was inside you, the resilience you didn't believe you had, the vision you never thought you could see. And failure is the chisel that carves that version of you into existence. Every time you fail, you are standing at the doorway of transformation. Most people never walk through it because they're too focused on the pain, too focused on the loss, too focused on what didn't work. But if you can shift your focus, if you can lean into the question, what is this failure trying to make of me? What new version of me is being born right now? Then suddenly the darkness becomes the womb of your greatest rebirth. And here's the most powerful part. Transformation doesn't just change what you can achieve, it changes what you believe. Once you've walked through failure and risen again, you carry a new confidence, a new identity, a new certainty about who you are. You stop living small because you realize the old limits no longer apply. You've become someone new. So the next time you feel like failure has ended your story, remind yourself that your story is just beginning. This is not the death of your dream, it's the transformation of your destiny. And now you see the truth. Failure was never your enemy. It was never the end. It was always feedback, guiding you, shaping you, refining you. Every setback you faced has been life's way of giving you information, pointing you in a new direction, asking you to rise higher. You've learned that the power is in the frame. When you choose to see failure not as proof that you're not enough, but as preparation for something greater, the same event that once crushed you becomes the very thing that frees you. You've discovered that resilience is born in these moments. That strength isn't gifted, it's earned. And every time you've fallen, every time you've been told no, every time you've broken and chosen to rise again, you've been building the unshakable muscle that will carry you through every challenge ahead. And you understand now that failure is not an ending. It's the beginning of transformation. It's the cracking open of the old self so that the new you can emerge. It's the seed breaking apart in the dark so that it can grow toward the light. So when failure comes again, and it will, you won't fear it. You won't hide from it. You won't let it define you. You'll embrace it. You'll reframe it. You'll use it as fuel. Because failure is not your final chapter. It's the opening line of the next one. And the pen is in your hands.